fantasy-wise, reality-wise, Jay Cutler tonight, is this just a lick your lips, lick your chops matchup against the Lions secondary?
Well, I think in Jay Cutler's mind, he's coming into this game. He's had success over the Lions. The last 6 games, they're 5-1 over the Lions, and their only loss, there was a hiccup last year on Monday Night Football, actually, in Detroit. But this time around, it's a big difference. It's a different story. Chris Houston is the starting corner, and opposite him, really, they don't know who they're going to use. They have a rookie corner in Jonte Green, and then they have a veteran journeyman, Alphonso Smith. So it's going to be very tough with Jacob Lacey out, and their biggest strength is Louis Delmas in the secondary. But like you said, Jay Cutler probably should be licking his chops coming into this one.
Now, Brandon Marshall, we know, is the number one wideout for the Bears. The question is, with Alshon Jeffrey out, who is the second receiver? See, I think Jeffrey's been a very good play for the Bears this year because he's good enough, but Earl Bennett has shown that he's struggled. Devin Hester struggled. Who do you like tonight to emerge as the second receiver?
Well, yeah, like you said, Alshon Jeffrey has been a big part of this team, and it's unfortunate that they lost him to that fractured right hand a couple weeks ago. But Earl Bennett is back and healthy now, and he has been Jay Cutler's favorite target over the last couple of years, but he's been slow to get off the wagon to start off the season. Devin Hester is starting to get into the mix lately, and they have a couple other receivers, special teams guys. Dane Zonsenbacher out of the slot could surprise some people. He's only had 1 catch this year. Eric Weems hasn't done much on offense. I think Kellen Davis could be, the tight end, could be Cutler's favorite target besides Brandon Marshall tonight.
Now, do you think Kellen Davis, what we know about the Lions is they have a terrific pass rush. Averill, Fairley, Sue, Vanden Bosch. Will they need Davis to stay in and block, or do you think they'll be able to set him down the seam to get a right down the middle of the field?
Davis has become a good blocker. At first he wasn't the best. They have Matt Spaeth, a very good blocking tight end, and I believe they're getting Evan Rodriguez back. He's been practicing all week. He's supposed to suit up and start at fullback. He also plays tight end as well. So I think that Davis will be blocking a lot, but at times he will see the middle of the field and try to get open and bring some catches in.
So you expect to see a lot of 2 wide receiver, 2 tight end sets tonight then?
Yeah, plenty of that. Plenty of 2 wide receiver, 2 tight end sets.
Thoughts on Matt Forte since he's come back? Does he look the same? Does he have the same juice going on in his step there, or do you think Matt Forte's not at 100%? Where are you with Forte right now?
Well, Forte against the Jaguars, the last game they played 2 weeks ago, he looked pretty good. He bounced back. He was banged up against the Cowboys and still had a pretty decent game. I think with the rest that he's had and all gaining his health back, I think that he's going to be able to have a breakout game tonight, and he's averaged 5 yards a carry in his career against the Lions.
Is there a certain ratio the Bears want with Forte and Michael Bush? Is Forte is it 2/3, 1/3? What is optimal for the Bears to have both these star running backs? And I'm going to call Bush a star. I think if Forte's not there, Bush is a pretty darn good player. What's the optimal amount of carries for each of these guys?
I don't think there's a specific number. I think going into a game plan, Mike Tice has a number in his mind, but I don't think that tonight you're going to see 20 for Forte, 10 for Bush. It just depends how the game goes. If Forte doesn't look great, they'll bring Bush in, especially in goal line situations. But I don't think coming into a game that they have a certain number, like I said, 20, 10. Bush is totally fine with his role. He hasn't complained a lot, and Forte is back and healthy, and I think that he'll have a big game tonight.
Before we go on to the defensive side of the ball, Alshon Jeffrey, how much longer are we looking with him missing time?
Well, the initial prognosis was 4 to 6 weeks. He didn't have surgery, so that didn't end his season. It's a fractured right hand, so it's definitely going to take some time, but who knows what's going to happen. I think over the next couple of weeks we'll hear a little bit more about that.
All right, let's look at the other side of the ball. The Lions, Matthew Stafford has looked lost at certain times. I think the Lions lack an identity. They don't know if they're running. They don't know if they're passing. Let's assume that the Lions come out throwing the ball tonight. What are the Bears going to do to pressure Matthew Stafford?
Well, they got to get pressure off the edge. Julius Peppers hasn't been that great this season. He's been pretty solid. Henry Melton has been a story. He has 4.5 sacks as the D tackle. And the rookie, Shea McClellan's been pretty solid, as well as third-year man Corey Wooten. So, I mean, they need to get pressure from those guys, especially Julius Peppers, who's been pretty pretty darn good against the Lions as of late.
Now, who's going to be covering Calvin Johnson? Is it going to be Peanut Tillman? Is it going to be Tim Jennings? What's the better matchup? And are they going to double cover Calvin Johnson and let Titus Young and guys like that beat them?
I think you'll see at times that I don't think that they're going to double team Johnson. I think Tillman will likely start off the game against Johnson and see how it goes. Last game, the Bears and Lions played. Tillman did a very good job at containing Megatron, but at the same time, I think that Tim Jennings will see some time against him. But Tillman has a bigger body, and I think that he'll be able to cover Johnson a little bit better.
Now, let me ask you this about Tim Jennings. Last year might have been one of the worst cornerbacks in football. This year, the guy looks possessed. Who is the real Tim Jennings, or has he done anything different to become, honestly, he looks Pro Bowl ready this year.
Well, last season, he wasn't horrible. He's always been a solid tackler, and in the cover 2 defense, he's always made plays tackling-wise. But when it comes to interceptions, he got beat off the initial start of the play, and there would be plays where he had picks, but he dropped them. His hands weren't that good. This offseason, he really dedicated himself to becoming a playmaker and bringing in picks, and you saw that the first couple of weeks. He had 4 picks in the first 3 games. He's been quiet. It's been kind of quiet as of late, but he's still done a really steady job.
All right, as we move, is this a game, though? Do you worry at all that the Bears will look past the Lions to next week and Carolina? I mean, are you worried about that at all tonight?
No, I don't think so. It's an NFC North matchup. The Bears and Lions, it's a hated matchup as of late with Jim Schwartz and Nnamdi Asue with what he did to Cutler a couple of years ago. I don't think they're looking past this at all. I think that if there's any game that they're looking past, it's maybe the next 2 weeks against the Panthers and Titans. But tonight, I think that the Bears are going to be ready at home in front of their own crowd against the Lions. It should be a good one.
Well, that's an interesting question. As you look the next couple of weeks, Carolina comes in week 8. They go to Tennessee week 9 before a big matchup against Houston. What will the team do anything different to prepare? Or, I mean, because there's those trap games. You look at that Chicago-Tennessee. That's got trap game written all over it. Chicago's looking at Houston. They could lose that one in Tennessee. Is there anything that the team is doing, anything that Lovie Smith can do to get those guys ready? Or is it just, bringing the same thing week in, week out?
The same thing week in and week out. They just got to stay focused. On a short week in week 2, they really fell off against Green Bay, and they can't have that. They can't let that happen again. They got to keep the winning streak going. And against Tennessee and Carolina, teams that aren't very good, they got to get those wins because the tough games are coming against Houston. They haven't played Minnesota yet. They still play Green Bay again. So they gotta win games when they can because Green Bay's coming on hot and Minnesota's right there.
Fair enough. I always ask this question. The Bears will win tonight if?
The Bears will win tonight if they take advantage of the absence of Jacob Lacey and attack Alfonso Smith or Jonte Green opposite Chris Houston. So Jay Cutler's got to step up and take advantage of that weakness.
Over under Brandon Marshall receptions tonight. I say over under 10. What do you think?
I think it'll be under. I think he's going to have 9 receptions. I'm just guessing, but I don't think he'll have more than 10. I think they're going to run the ball a little bit more than they usually do tonight.
Well, there you go. Jake Perper, BearsBacker.com. Thanks so much for being with us as usual.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Be interesting to see Brandon Marshall tonight. Jake thinks they're going to run a little bit, but Brandon Marshall's going to